Hi, Ragini.
Hi, ma'am.
Okay, today I want to do something called tessellation with you. It's called tessellation, Tessallation. We'll write the spelling later on, so don't worry about that. So tessellation is when you make one design that grows in different ways. So, and it sits like tiles inside each other. So you can take different shapes and create a design in that. And that one design, if you repeat, that thing can be repeated endlessly. So we are going to make some tessellated designs today. Now, the unusual bit is today we can try using a scale. So do you have a scale or a ruler handy? Just a small scale from school also is fine, something like this. Okay, and our regular pencil. All right. I'm going to show you some pictures first so you know what I'm talking about. So there was an artist named M.C. Escher. He was a Dutch artist and he made prints that were very interesting. So I want you to see these first, and then we are going to try and build them. Are you able to see my window? All right, now look at this picture. What do you see in this?
Many birds joined together.
Which birds are joined together? What's the color of the birds?
White and blue.
And what is the similarity in them and what is the difference?
They're just pointed in opposite directions.
Correct. But do they look the same? As in,
Mm,
the
yes.
though they're flying in opposite directions, but they look like the same bird is turned in the opposite direction. Now, can you see how they fit so nicely within each other? It's like holding your hands together. The space between your fingers is exactly enough to accommodate the fingers of the other hand, isn't it? Let's see some more. Okay, what do we have here?
Ma'am, we have like some fish and birds.
Correct. So now this time it's not the same shape, right? You see different shapes?
Yeah.
Cool. Now let's see what else we can do with this. How complicated we can make this. Now look at this. It's the same horse, right? But one is upside down and one is right side up. So we want to try making simple shapes. This one is also very beautiful. Now, what is different over here?
And it looks like there are some fish and then they like change into birds. Like they're underwater and then they're in the sky like that.
True. But do you notice that the fish are white and the birds are black? So the space between the fish changes itself and becomes the bird. And the space between the birds changes and becomes fish. Can you see this? Now, this is a more advanced form of tessellation, but I want you to see how beautifully you can imagine. Now, this artist made something called a huge mural called Metamorphosis, where not only birds and fish, he changed a lot of things. He starts with a checkerboard design and then changes part of the checkerboard into birds, white birds on one side, black birds on the other side. Then he has made paintings out of this. Now look at this. This man is running down the stairs, and then this man goes and becomes shape, which becomes an abstract shape, then which becomes a rectangle, and then becomes part of the building. So you can imagine a lot of things in tessellation. This is one of my most favorite ones, where you have white horsemen and black horsemen. It's almost like playing chess. Okay, so we're going to do this, but for this, we're going to start very basic. We're going to start making small tile patterns where the tile design will look pretty much the same so that you can repeat it. We will first understand how tiling works. So I want you to make a set of 16 squares. So 4 squares horizontal and 4 squares upright. You can make them maybe about 1 centimeter or 2 centimeters tall. So I want to show you how you can make these lines so that they're all perpendicular. Even that is a task. I don't know whether they teach you that in school, but I'm going to teach you for sure. Okay, so here's my technique. First and foremost, when you're making lines, look for a pencil that is very sharp. So if you have a mechanical pencil, that works very well. One that's like this, because it's got a very thin tip. If not, then make sure your pencil is sharp. Now, usually the edges of papers are rectangular or perpendicular. What am I saying? So I start off with first measuring a line carefully from the edge of the paper itself. And I will measure it at 2 centimeters. That's the first line that I'm going to draw. And then from one side at 2 centimeters, from the other side as well, I'll measure it at 2 centimeters. And we need 4 squares, right? So I'm going to make all of the squares 2 centimeters long. So I need an 8 centimeter long line. So this is square 1, square 2, square 3, and square 4. So I will draw a clean line from point to point. I prefer to not draw my lines going from one end to the other end. We have to make it very neat. Now from this side, again, we've measured it at 2. So here we will measure box 1, box 2, box 3, and box 4. Now you have to make sure that this line is perpendicular. So this comes to 10 centimeters over here, right? So I go to the other side and make sure that my line is drawn exactly at 2 centimeters and mark this again. So if I were to keep my scale like this and I mark 4, 6, 8, 10, these 2 points will not match. This 10 will be slightly higher, and of course my line is going to be crooked. So There is a tool called a T-square, which I'm just going to show you. You don't have to buy it, but that helps you draw straight lines. So usually you have a T-square like this is creates a perpendicular line. So when architects are drawing lines, this is how they move the line across the drawing board and are quickly able to draw a lot of parallel lines that are perpendicular to the page. But we might not have this. So you have to just make sure that your measurements are accurate. And you can do that. There's a saying called measure twice, cut once. So take your time in making this absolutely precise. Now don't draw the line in a rush. Even from this side, you should check that you have measured correctly. Is it at 8 centimeters? Yes. Is this point at 2 centimeters? Yes. Now, I can't emphasize enough the importance of being able to draw clean lines. And a lot of times, a lot of students don't take care and they will draw lines that go past the point. And then your whole picture can look like it's okay, but I wish the line had not gone beyond that point. You keep thinking that. So you should become the types who makes sure that all these lines, whenever you're asked to even draw straight lines with a pencil, with a ruler, your lines are so precise that the square you draw looks perfect. Okay? All right, so take your time. I'm going to now continue to mark the boxes and we will make 4 boxes lengthwise and 4 boxes widthwise. So try not to get even these lines on top. See these? I have marked the distance. I should have marked on the inside. Now for the next box, I'll do it that way. Don't even get these going outward. And do this very slowly. And you can draw this quite light. You don't have to draw it too dark. Ruhan, you must be watching your mom work with very precise measurements, don't you?
Yeah, but like she usually works in her studio when we're not at school. But like, yeah, I see her working with like these scales and stuff.
You should ask her how precise she needs to make all her, um, or take all her measurements. So Ruhan's mom makes these miniature dioramas, means tiny, tiny houses which have tiny chairs, tiny stools, tiny plants. So she has to be very, very precise in how these measurements are taken. Because imagine if you have a tiny house that's about this big and you have a chair that's this big, obviously it's not going to look good and it's not going to fit. So every little measurement makes a big difference.
Yeah, ma'am, she does it at 1/12 scale. So like a chair would be much smaller.
There you go. And they're beautiful. Now you can make these lines fairly light. You don't have to make them too dark, huh? Because we are going to draw stuff on top of it. And then we are going to color them in black and white. So you should barely be able to see this. Okay, are you done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Agni is done. Abdul is done. Rohan, I'll wait for you.
You can go ahead. It's okay. I just need to find my eraser. I made one line wrong.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. Okay, so now we have to think of breaking up a square in such a way that if we repeat that square in all of these, it will start making the same design. So let's make some rough square designs and see what we can do out of it. So now you can make these freehand squares, just make 4 of them. And in this, now we want to make the same, say, cuts or shapes in one square that can repeat in another square. So for example, if we take, if we divide these squares further. So I'm just drawing a line at what would look like half of each of the squares and also in the middle. Okay, now suppose we make something like this. We make a curve from the top center coming a little above the halfway point of the line on the right. I think I shall make this with pen, then you can see better. I think it's too difficult for you all to see. I've divided all these into halves just so that we can get accurate shapes in our design. So suppose I make this, right? And if I repeat the same thing over here, approximately the same way, it's quite easy to imagine that this could be the head of a fish and this could be its tail. Can you see that? Now we can't do anything in this that we don't want in this. So suppose we want the body of the fish to be like this. Then this also will have to be like so. Okay, and then we can make an eye here. So then there'll be an eye here. What is this looking like? It's not looking like a fish anymore. And what if we make even more of these? Oh, sorry. So if we make this back, then maybe it looks like something else, not like a fish anymore. It looks almost like a clam. So how about let's change that. Same process. Suppose we continue this because this looked fine. And then maybe we can take this further. So yes, this is what we do. This is fine. And then we can take one step up and make a out. How about we convert this into a shape like, where am I? This. So we take this up. So you get a line here. And bring this down. Does this look more like a fish now? Do you see it? So this fellow also will be extending outward. And we will have a fin on top. Now you can draw an eye here and here. Now the same thing can repeat all over. This way, this way. We already have this line. So this becomes the shape. Oh, I'm getting so confused. Yes. This and this. So in each square, these are the shapes we make. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Here will be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, and no line over here. This is the shape. Let me just color it for you so you can see it better. Each square will have this shape. And in making this shape, we will be successfully making these fish. Know how I can see a fish in this yet? I feel I'm making some mistake.
Ma'am,
Maybe
so should we draw the first box, like the one without the colored fish?
the one without the colored fish, this one?
Yeah, that one. Should we draw it?
No, don't draw it. Maybe draw this one because I'm trying to construct this. I have a feeling we can expand this even more. So maybe one entire box can be a fish. Oh, I'm getting more and more confused myself. Okay, I'm going to try an easier tessellation. Wait a minute. This will look like the fish. Correct, yes. And maybe this. Yeah, so I'm going to change a few lines. So instead of coming all the way here, I'm going to make this like so. So I get this shape. The final shape will be, if this is our square, this is the mouth. Maybe we can make it like this. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 lines in every box. And they're all on this side and nothing on this side. Okay, let's try making this now. So everything about designing tessellations is making repeated designs. You keep taking a little bit from here, a little bit from there. Imagine how one shape looks in one form and then change it a little bit and then keep developing it further and further. So I'm going to make this one more time. We have one line here, one line here, and another line here. This is how the fin is going to be. And then you have one line here. Now repeat the same. Same thing here. This is from the center. So the line from the center, this curve comes just above half point over here. Then you have a line from below the half point coming to the center. And then another line that cuts close like this. That same line goes to the other side. On the other side of this half point, same thing over here. So right now, just focus on making the lines. And once you put them all together, then we will do the coloring bit. So what are the lines in each square? From center to above the half point. From half point to center. These are the first two lines, right? 1 and 2. This is half point. This is half point here and here and here. Then here we will leave a little bit of gap. And here also leave a little gap. And draw the fin of the fish on top of its head. But without the back of the tail, it makes no sense. So we are accommodating the back of the tail over here like this. This is in each square, we have to make this design. You got it? 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you have to just make sure that the top of this triangle and the top of this triangle are in the same place so that they touch and look like one fin on top. Shall we try this? All right, now next exercise is to make this design over here. Ideally, if you have tracing paper, you can just make one design and trace it on all these. So I do have tracing paper, but I think we can make it by hand also. These are simple curves. Now, most important, we have to mark the half point everywhere. So here's how I'm doing it. I'll mark, this is 0, this is 8, and I will mark it 1, 3, 5, and 7 on the top line and the bottommost line. And then I'll use those two lines to mark the center of each square only. I'm not drawing a line fully. I'm just marking the center as a guideline for me to draw the next lines. And you do the same thing on the other side. Okay, now that we're doing this, we should make the same shape everywhere in all the boxes. So here's the shape I'm making from the top. I've turned this around because I find it easier to make curves like this instead of making them like this. But you can keep the book the way you want to. I'm drawing curve number 1. So that goes from just above this half point to the center line. And I'm going to try and maintain this throughout. Now you can of course measure how many you want that line to be above. I'm doing it just visually. And I'm repeating this in all the 16 squares. So from the center to just a little above. You want to try and make this the same shape. That's why tracing paper will help, but it's okay. We can get tracing paper another time. That's shape 1. Now, similarly, we will make shape 2. Already, can you see how the tile is building up? And also at the bottom. Now, line number 3, if you want to, you can do this. You can measure at what point you want that line to come. So I'm going to make it come up to about just 5 mm above here. So I've marked a line that is 15, like 1.5 centimeter from the top. And at this point, I'm going to draw my tail. on one side. And on the other side, I'm going to draw the body of the fish, which is also going to be like a triangle shape. So all the shapes I create by just creating all of them in one square. And then as they repeat, the fish will be visible to us. Are you getting it, or is it very confusing? Not getting it? All right. Can you see this shape? How about just try making the shapes? Just don't think about it too much. Make the first shape, second shape, third shape, and fourth shape, and leave gaps between the lines between the bottom and on the side, the way I have. And I'll wait for you. Tell me when you've done so much. And then afterwards, once we color them, then you will suddenly see everything and it'll look wonderful. I think this fin can touch here. Don't leave a gap there. This fin. This part. Don't leave a gap. Leave a gap on the other side. Don't leave a gap on the left of this line. Leave a gap on the right. I'm bringing line number 4 to the center bottom of the squares. And line number 3, I'm keeping it a little away from the center line. So the shape of my fish is like this. And I can make a nice fin here to all of them. Are you seeing it? And then I can make some lines on the fin here. And also, this also becomes a fin. This will become a geometric shaped fish. Now, do you see it? So this is one of the very unusual projects that I'm teaching you today, because it requires a certain amount of geometry, measuring, and also to be able to see shapes in imaginary forms, or see imaginary forms in regular shapes. The other thing is also to remember what line to do where without being too confused. And it's okay in the beginning if you get confused. But what I can recommend is make the same lines all over. Don't make one line, one box full with all the lines 1, 2, 3, 4, and then move to the other box and make all the lines 1, 2, 3, 4. See? 1, 2, 3, 4. Just 4 lines and I have my fish shape. Are you seeing it now? Okay, so I'll wait for you to finish this part, and then all we have to do is paint each of the fish in different colors. So you can choose to paint every alternate fish in every row in one color so that you get a nice pattern, or whatever you want to choose to make. Abdul, are you done?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so did you understand this?
Yes.
Okay, if you didn't understand anything, always ask me questions. All right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now we can either color these first and then do the black lines, or we can make the black lines outline first and then we can color them. So I'm choosing to first make the black outline in a dark pen. And I'm taking a 0.5 micron pen. And I'm not going to make the squares, mind you. I have to just make our pattern. So this is how my lines will look. See, I'm not making the vertical and horizontal lines in this. Now, whenever I'm drawing these lines also, I always turn the book to the most comfortable angle to draw the line. This line I could draw in this angle. And the other line I can draw in the other angle. That way you can always ensure that your lines are looking good. Now the outside is unpainted. I'm going to leave it like that for now. And no lines are drawn also. And I am going to paint my fish in, I think I'll paint them in two colors, yellow and red. And I'll start off with red first. Oh, wait a minute. If it's going to be yellow and red, then I should start yellow first, not red. I'm just erasing these extra lines that I've made to show you how the fish will look. And I'm going to start very carefully from the top left section and work my way downward in every alternate shape. Now, if you ignore the vertical and horizontal lines, you will see that the fish is contained in the entire shape. And it crosses over at least one vertical line, though it does not cross over any horizontal lines. Then we do the other color on the diagonal. Now you can use any kind of coloring for this. If you want, you can use sketch pens or crayons, because we just have to paint this flat. You don't really need to use watercolor. I just enjoy watercolor, and because it is always handy, I land up using watercolor. But the Dutch artist I showed you, MC Escher, he would make prints out of this. So he would carve this design out in wood, and then he would use that to print on paper. So I'm going to be writing the name of the artist on the page also, so that you can do some of your own research. He's one of my most favorite artists. And there is a beautiful museum of his work at The Hague. Do you know where The Hague is? Anybody? Have you heard of a place named The Hague? All right, so The Hague is a city in, sorry, in Holland, outside of Amsterdam. It's, I think, a couple of hours by train. And that is the seat of government in Holland, and also certain international organizations. So it's spelled Hague, Hague, The Hague. And in Dutch, it's often also called Den Haag. So while my yellow paint dries, I'm going to write the name of the artist, and I'm also going to write the name of the technique we have used right now.
Ma'am, so
Hmm.
I was just bringing out my watercolors and I saw that like they're very like squishy and mushy. Like if like I put my finger in it, it'll like be pressed down. Is that
It's
like no?
No, that's okay. It's probably because of the monsoon. There must be some moisture that has made it squishy, but you can still use them.
Yeah, okay. Let's get like a cup to put more water.
Okay. This is such a long word. So many double letters. Tessellation. Artist is MC Escher. And their museum is in The Hague. Another beautiful thing is the mural. This entire piece of tessellation called metamorphosis. I'm going to write those also. Look for celebrated pieces. So one is metamorphosis. Do you know what metamorphosis is?
Ma'am, like the changing of something, like a cocoon goes through metamorphosis when it's becoming into a butterfly.
Correct. Yes. Then there are some other paintings that I'll show you. I'll just write these names down so that you can do some research of your own. Then there's a picture. Oh, 1 second. Then there's another one which is beautiful, which is called relativity. I'm going to share an article with you guys. If you can read it, that'll be great. Then third one is drawing hands. And there's one which is like an impossible staircase. And an impossible. There's so many of them. You must see this ascending and descending. Okay, so just see these. Oh yeah, the fifth one is waterfall. Okay, I'm going to show you a picture. This is something that I had gone and seen. Oh, where is it? Okay, you can just Google this and you'll see. I don't know if you can see this. See how the mural is. Oh my God. This isn't the airport, sorry. This is the. This is how the mural looks. And it's in a post office. Have you ever been to a post office to send a letter? Okay, so that's a place where you can send letters. It's like a courier office. So this entire mural has been painted on the wall. It's maybe 3 or 4 feet tall. So if you're ever at The Hague, do visit this post office. It's a masterpiece.
Ma'am, I've been to the post office to post my sister's letter.
Oh, okay. So I wish our post offices were also like that. How are your fish looking?
Oh, fine.
Fine, not so great.
Not so great. I haven't finished painting them.
Okay, can I have a look? I'm just going to paint one line of red fish so I get to see how they're looking. And I'll finish the remaining during maybe later today or tomorrow, and I'll share it. So what are your thoughts about this subject, tessellation?
I think it's very nice, except it can be very confusing at times.
True. Ragini, what do you think?
I like it.
Like it? Very good. Now you must try to see what all you can do with it, because as we did this whole exercise, you can use tessellation to really be creative. Because here you're not necessarily looking at something and copying a design. You are taking a shape, turning it around in your mind and saying, what can I cut from one place and put in another place, and then make one thing look like another thing. And you can start with simple curves and simple lines and still make it resemble something or the other. Abdul, what do you think about tessellation? Abdul has disappeared. Okay, so what would you like to do next week? Do you have any thoughts?
Ma'am, like maybe a few months ago, you taught us how to do the face like at holy time. But like and like now I try to just make characters of my own, but then I kind of struggle with like the face and the body simultaneously. So maybe something like that.
All right, we can do that. So shall we try some portrait or no, face and body you wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do faces and bodies next week. That's a nice topic.
Or like clothes also.
Okay, yeah, we can do clothes as well. I shall note that down and we should do it next week. Face, body, and clothes. Now, if you have some reference images, please send them. Then I
Yeah.
can have a look and we can look at those references and make our own. Excuse me. Okay, shall we end for today?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Very nice. Abdul, I saw yours. Very good. Oh, wow. Look at that. He has made, what is this? Spider-Man. This is that good and bad Spider-Man. Very nice.
It is a venom.
It's Venom. Yes. Sorry, I like Venom also. Good. You're still finishing it?
This one I will do
Okay.
at home.
Very good. It's looking excellent. Good job. Okay, so I will see you next week. Please share your pictures on the group so I can take a closer look. Okay? All right. Bye. Good night.
Bye, ma'am. Good night.